Alright, well, I'm going to do an update video on the Maverick. Haven't had home internet in over 6 months, so that's why there hasn't been any videos. But it's been a lot of changes with the car. We got it, the first decent pass out of the car, it ran a 730 at 100 miles an hour at Crossville I-40 dragway. That was on 15 pounds of boost, having a lot of converter blow through issues. And after that, we had the converter tightened up a little bit at Daco in Cookeville, Tennessee, and we took it to Brainerd, put a little more timing into it, revved a little higher, and it ran a 713 at 101. And we ended up putting slapper bars on the car, just some cheap Summit Racing traction bars we painted black, put them on there, and that dropped my 60 foot down from a 170 down to a 150, not real consistently though. And so that got me in the 690s, and then I ended up putting a little more timing into it. I added about 3 degrees of timing into it. I was pulling 7/10 of a degree per pound of boost, and my total timing was 36 degrees, and running 12 pounds of boost, it ran a 660 at 105. And then we took it back again and tried to turn the boost up, and we turned it up to 20 pounds of boost, and it didn't really run any faster. It actually ran a 670 at 100 and it ran a 670 at 106, but it was coming out of the hole bad. It lost about 2 or 3 tenths on the 60 foot time because it was bogging out of the hole. I didn't realize it that night, but it was actually a carburetor issue. And if you go back and watch my video of the car running a 840, I thought it had a blown head gasket back then. When I tore the motor down, it actually didn't. It was all carburetor issue. And what it is I have too short of a carburetor hat on the car. It's really low, and it was, the forebarrel was opening up, and when the secondaries opened up, they weren't getting enough signal to actually fuel through the boosters. So it was not fueling, but it was putting air to it. So it just had this terrible lean bog to about half track. And the way I realized this is after I got the car to run a 660, we pulled the converter out, and I put the stock converter back in while I was reinstalling it. And while I had the stock one in it, it went back to doing the exact same thing it used to when it ran an 840. It bogged for like 200 feet before it would boost. And by checking with my wideband, I figured out the thing was going just totally lean. So after messing with some different things, I actually took panel bond, because I work at a body shop, and filled the back of this back here to where instead of the air coming back and swirling around, it actually goes straight down into the carburetor. This is all full back through here. And I tried some ball vent extensions, and was running hoses off my ball vents up all the way into here, and that worked good. But when I had it on the primaries, it would go just pig rich, just in normal driving conditions. So I had to just do it on the secondaries, and I was having problems with the ball vents staying where they were supposed to. So I ended up putting a brass fitting on here and doing an 1/8 inch pipe thread to 1/4 inch pipe thread, made like a funnel, and point it towards the inlet for the air to where it actually funnels the air down into the secondary balls. And that fixed my fueling problems with not fueling when you first get on the throttle and low RPMs. So the higher stall converter was covering up the fuel problem, because it was just basically free revving till about 3 grand, and then by that point it had enough airflow to get it to fuel. So I figured out I had a bad carburetor hesitation issue when I went back to the stock converter, which now we've got the loose converter back in because it actually runs quicker on that converter. But we've restalled the converter since it ran a 660. I've changed all the carburetor settings. I changed my cold side piping from a 4-inch pipe that used to come up through here to now a 3-inch pipe, and clocked the hat this way, so it, in my mind, that would get more even air to the secondaries and primaries both. And moved the hot side piping. I cut the manifold off and put a V-band flange on it. And the exhaust used to come down through here, be right against this radiator hose. Now it goes around the outside, up underneath the car. V-band's in the middle, comes up. And this pipe here, used the exhaust, the turbo hot side, instead of being under here, used to be right under this radiator hose, so that was causing a lot of heat soak issues. And so same turbo, still a 75mm bore warner with a 74mm wheel on the exhaust side, and a 1.1 AR. It's too small really for this motor, because we put it on the dyno, and on 12 pounds it made like 450 to the tires, and then when we turned it up to 20 it only made 464. So it's evidently run out of air, aside from the fact that when we turned it up it was slipping the converter 30% on the dyno, and I'm getting the same kind of slip numbers to the track. The car's on higher boost is slipping the converter like 30%. So I really have 2 loops of the converter in the car, but it's just trying to make it where it'll stall high enough on a foot brake and still, you know, not slip too much. So I probably got a little too loose of a converter in it. But biggest thing that helped the car was the slapper bars. Got me down to 150s on my 60-foot time from 170s, 180s. And putting stronger valve springs in it. I had some cheap Edelbrock valve springs in it, and it was topping out at 5,200 RPM. So I changed valve springs, and it helped me out a ton. Now I rev it to like 58, 6,000 RPM, and it picked up 3/10 just by doing that. So, but I built a downpipe for it, and it comes over the tire, out the fender. I'm going to actually cut it off flush with the fender so it doesn't stand out that much, but just got that done. But the main reason I did all the hot side changes was because I was having overheating issues on the interstate because it was heat soaking. So hopefully this will fix any overheating issues I had on the interstate, because it really limited me on where I could drive it in the summertime. Driving it on the interstate long distance, it would overheat. But still got 300 gear, stock axles, stock 8-inch, $15 eBay mini spool, Jeep Cherokee drive shaft, C6 with all stock hard parts. It has red Alto clutches in it. It's got like double the clutches it would normally have. It's got a Kevlar band, a Dayco converter. I think it's a 10.5-inch converter. It's really junk, but it was cheap, and it really needs a good high dollar converter, but I don't want to spend the money. It's got a Torker 2 intake, 74 model smog heads that I ported, stock valves. It's got stiffer valve springs now, stock rocker arms, chromoly push rods, because I killed 2 push rods over revving the motor. It was actually floating the valves and under boost on a burnout, and it killed 2 push rods and lost oil pressure. And stock cast crank, scat H-beam rods, and probe forged disc top pistons in it, Cometic head gaskets, ARP head bolts, ARP main studs. You know, it's got a 26 by 19 aluminum radiator with a Volvo fan. I'm probably going to put a bigger fan on it too if I have any issues this summer. Cummins Dodge intercooler that's been cut down. Also, stuff I did, I haven't been back to the track yet, but I put 4 more degrees of pinion angle in it because it only had 3 degrees, and the car was, you know, it axle wraps a lot, so it's got 6.5 degrees of pinion angle now, downward angle. I'm going to see what that does on my launch, 60-foot times. And I figured out from watching my videos that the car only picked up about 1.5 inches on the launch when I took off. So I actually changed the shock mounts. They were actually coned up this way to the top. So I cut this out, flipped it, and turned it down. And now, and I lowered the car about 1 inch or 2. No, so now it actually has 5 inches of upward travel where it used to have 1.5 inches, 2 inches of upward travel. So I'm hoping that that'll plant the back tires better and get a better 60-foot time. But I've changed about everything on the car since it's around 660, so we'll have to go back to the track here soon. Probably going to take it to Dragon for Toys at Brainerd and see what it runs. I'm hoping for a 630 or 40, so that would put it at probably a 9-second quarter-mile car. I'd really like to do that on pump gas, but here it is. It's kind of rough inside. Needs carpet, you know, seat covers and stuff, but just got back from Walmart and going out to eat last night. Took all 3 kids in it, so still a street car. We drive it to Pigeon Forge. We drive it power tour down in Chattanooga, and you know, take it anywhere we want to go on pump gas. But that's an update video, and I guess the next one I'll try to put up on a video when we go to the track and see what these next changes did. But valve springs and traction bars helped me a ton. Being able to rev it higher, and you know, the traction bars helped a ton on the 60-foot time, so maybe that'll help some of you guys out.